And I think we're live now. Welcome to Expert35, where we bring you 35 experts from 35 different industries. I'm your host, Greg Stevenson. Be sure to tune in next week because we're going to be talking about, we got schools going back into session, and we're going to be talking about marketing. So be sure to check into that. But today we have a special guest, which is Gabriel Garcia. Gabriel, welcome to the show.
What's up, Greg? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure how does it feel to be on the other side of the desk?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I'm in Taos, New Mexico, so it's like a day at the beach is a day at the beach, while a day in the mountains is a day in the mountains. So love being out here, and thanks for taking the time to do a quick recap on my experience and my adventure recently with the refrigerator.
Yeah, so tell us what happened.
So I bought an RV, moved the office remote, and the refrigerator went out. And troubleshooting it, I mean, there's not a lot of information online, and I thought I'd do a little bit of recap. But after doing a tremendous amount of work and actually pulling it out and flipping it upside down and putting it back in, it now actually works. And this is a Dometic RM2551, and I'll show you. And I got ice even in the refrigerator part, so I'm gonna have to adjust my thermistor over here. And I've got ice being in the box, so I was getting zero cold air in there. It was even hotter in there sometimes than inside. But after a couple of tips, I was able to get it cold, and I thought I'd make a quick video to really help all those first timers like me. And hopefully you guys don't make the same mistakes.
Well, that's right. That's we're going to be interested to find out what you learned, so we can share that. So there's your rig.
Uh-huh. And we'll start off with some tools. So here's a quick little checklist of things that you can have. You should always have these tools in the back of your toolbox, right? But man, have some gloves, have something you can test the voltage from, make sure things are off, have something to turn off nuts for. You get a screwdriver. Also, you need a square tip because some of the screws that are in there are square. A couple crowbars. And these rollers are key because I did this all by myself. So there's a couple of different techniques that they told me to do. Is first, make sure that it's cooling, right? And if it's not cooling, what are there's a couple of little checklists. There's a little checklist of all the tools that I needed to do it by myself. We'll link it on there as well. I'll send you the link so people can write this off. But I used every single one of those. 6 screws. That's all that held this thing in place. Oh, and some glue. Terrible idea. Rookies, whoever put this in with glue. The 2 wire nuts are gonna isolate the 12 volt, and then I bought some extra screws, and that's a little cap I use in case I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to keep the refrigerator out. So I wanted to cap the gas line because these refrigerators run on DC, AC, and propane, liquid propane. And if I cap it, then I can actually run the propane on my gas stove and not worry about a gas leak. So that's like a little safety tip from there. And that's just a 5/8. You can get it at Ace Hardware. That's where I've been. I should probably plug in that Ace is the place because they help me out in Taos. It's the only place. There's no Home Depot or anything out here.
Yeah, because you're a long way away from your own tools, right?
Oh yeah, you can see behind me. I'm house sitting a house. One of my buddies, John Wallace, went to race with me, and I'm house sitting. So this is kind of like the best setup as far as being away from someone. At least I was able to get some of his tools. Actually, those rollers came from his house and a couple of 2x4s. But I am miles away, from anywhere. There was one guy in town that works on RVs, and Moses came to talk to Gabriel. It was like biblical times all over again, and he helped me. He helped me through this. So, level 1, if you're gonna do the first level, the first part of troubleshooting this thing, oh my God, get a level. I'm gonna grab my level right here, and look at this bad boy. There's one on my trailer. I don't know if you can see it. There it is.
Yeah, we can see it.
Make sure you're level within tolerance. You got to get at least 85% of the bubble within the lines, and you can also do it by putting it on the trailer. It's upside down. That's not going to get you level. There you go. That'll show you how level you are. But you also want to make sure your refrigerator is actually level too, because your refrigerator may be a little bit different than the rest of your unit. And you can put this on here. You can see it's perfectly level. You can also put it inside the fridge. It's even a better place.
Yeah. So
That's
Gabriel, why is it so important to have your refrigerator and your trailer level?
Well, if you're a rookie like me, you don't read the instructions until you break it, and that's the first thing it says in the instructions. Is like, make sure your fridge is level before you turn it on, and that's because the chemicals that are used. This isn't a compressor. This isn't like your fridge at home. This is actually a heat sink. It takes heat away from the fridge instead of putting cold air into the fridge like your fridge at home. And so being perfectly level is important. Now, if you're driving down the road, it's not as important because you're sloshing around. If you're on the on pavement, and I actually plugged it in Austin, Texas, and I was probably at like a 9-degree incline. And so I know that this is my fault. Like I broke this refrigerator, and I guess now I'm live with public records. I probably couldn't use insurance for it, but there's no insurance on this trailer. So level it. The pro Moses came and told me to run it on propane. I'm like, why? I can plug it onto 110 and I got 30 amps. He's like, no, propane is better, especially at altitude. I'm above, I'm at 7,000 feet. So propane apparently is a better way because it's actually helping to remove the heat as opposed to putting cold air.
Right.
And the thermistor, which sounds like a fake word, but it is a word just for these things, is like the little guy that I showed you that's inside of the fridge. Make sure that it's on there. Like it could have fallen out while you were driving, and it could have been too far low. You can slide it up and down to get it colder. And then pro tip is, add cold ice and cold water to the fridge and add stuff to it. Because some of the things I found online were that it's not always, that it's not meant to, it doesn't put cold air in there. So if you already put things that are cold, it gets the temperature much faster, right? And so that's good. That was a good little tip from online, and but I just couldn't even keep it, right? Another tip. The second level troubleshooting is add fans. Now these are just USB fans from Walmart, and they're running all night. But one's on the heatsink, and one's inside the fan. One is inside in the fins of the refrigerator. And man, they made a huge difference. Even when I wasn't able to cool very well, they were at least helping the refrigerator get to where they needed to get. So that was another really good tip
So
from online.
what are the temperatures running during the hottest part of the days where you are right now?
So, oh man, I'm in Taos. It's beautiful. It probably gets up to 86, 87, right? So it's not so bad. This isn't like Houston temperatures, right? But it's dry heat, so it's important. But now let's go talk about like if none of that works, and you want to check for leaks, you want to make sure that you have charge, all that. But I mean, most people can't check for that unless you smell ammonia, and if you see like residue outside of it. But I'm going to show you my actual unit. Right here it is. This is where the heat sink's up top. Right, you can see my little fan running. Right, this is supposed to be really hot, and then this is supposed to be cooler because this is what's taking all the heat away. And all the controls are down here. Right, so it's kind of a tricky situation. You want to make sure that after you do all these things, you're checking that there's no residue, that it's clean. And my unit, according to Moses, was one of the cleanest units he's ever seen out of New Mexico. So that made me feel good, but also made me feel bad that I broke it. So let's talk about flipping it, right? So step one, and I'll walk around my RV. There you go. Thanks for showing those pictures because there's going to be some photos of what you want to disconnect, right? You want to make sure you disconnect your power, your battery, and your propane. Mine happen to be all in line, but it's as simple as like, unscrew that, pull that out, right? I have a quick disconnect in there. That is because I decided to put that in there. But some people, they have to actually untie the actual battery, and then propane. Go ahead and crank that down all the way down so it turns it off. Remember, there's still propane in the line. There's pressure, right? So go ahead and grab a little lighter and light the gas stove to make sure all the propane comes out of the line because there's pressure on there. So show that picture real quick, Greg. I think I sent a photo that shows. There you go. So that's the three things, and then that's me just burning off the gas on that propane stuff, and just light it and keep lighting it until no more fire comes out. Then you can really get into it and remove 6 screws. It's all it is, right? First, you want to disconnect power. That's the A. B, this is your DC power, and it's always there for managing the controls. And actually, pro tip, I had my battery unplugged because I was plugged into 110 volts, thinking, oh, I don't need the battery. Well, I didn't understand that the battery was running the controls. It's not cooling the refrigerator, but you need it for the controls. So if you have a bad battery, check your battery, get a new replacement, and you should be good. All right, and here we go. The last one is this little nut is tied into your pilot for the propane. So untie that. Put little caps on there. So if you look at your list, you need 2 little like rain caps on there. No, you don't get shocked or anything in case you turn it back on, or you may keep it out. And those are your 2 bolts, screws. There's a little screw in one corner and a little screw in the other corner. And in my case, I don't know if you can see it. There's a bunch of black gunk in there. That's the glue.
Yeah, actually, we can.
You'll see the glue. Yeah, a bunch of glue in there. So I cut that glue out with a screwdriver and a little knife. And then I went inside and got my, removed the screws from inside. Because all it is 4 more screws. Here they are. Right? You've got your control panel up top, which you can, after a couple times, it just starts coming out. Obviously, I've done this several times. Done. Screw there, screw there. I'm going to get some better tape to replace that with. You take those screws out, and then you can just, oh man, that's good. And I just threw that little top part on inside the fridge as I was working on it, just because it was easier. There you go. That's back in place. Pro tip, take the door off. I was pulling by the door and I broke the door hinge, so now I got to pay $14 for a little door hinge.
Oh man.
And 2 screws, one there and one there. There's actually a kick plate that I haven't put on there. The reason we're doing this video now is because it's working. Flipping it over works. So that kick plate comes off. Boom. You'll see the screws, they pop out. And then to pop them out, this fridge is so tight. I mean, it is right in there. I wedged a crowbar with a little plastic plate. There you go. That's a great photo. And I just, slowly inched it until I got it off that glue. Really, the problem was that glue. And once I took that glue out, it started sliding out. It is heavy, so I recommend that 2 people do it. You can push from the back, but don't push on the fins or anything like that. And just grab my tubes. These. Thank you, Johnny, for letting me borrow these little tubes.
So, Gabe, that glue was definitely not done at the factory, right?
Probably, maybe somebody had troubleshooted before. So I just, there's my dog Calvin helping us out. So I put these 2 rollers right here, and they're just cardboard, but they're super strong. I don't know who makes these rollers, but shout out to whoever makes these shipping container rollers. We just threw I pulled the refrigerator out on that step, and then carried it over. That was the only time I really had to carry it, and I just kept changing the roller until I moved it all the way down the line. Obviously, my table wasn't here. It's removable. I put 2 sets of 2x4s so I could roll it over. And the reason you do that is because there's a lip. If you just roll it over, you're going to be bending the lip, right? So I rolled it onto the 2x4s, and at that point, it's kind of scary. You hear all this liquid moving around, and it's like an ammonia mixture. And I loosened up. What some people suggest is that because I kept it on an incline, that it moved all the chemical to one side, so then it wasn't cooling properly, and it might have actually built a residue that ended up clogging the cooling unit. So by flipping it over, I think I was able to release it, dislodge that. And again, pro tip: put some ice in the ice in the ice maker, or not ice maker, in the ice box, and put some ice down at the bottom, and put some more stuff in there that's already cool, so that it just gets there faster. I mean, I finished that around 4:00. And then by, this morning, 6 in the morning, look at this. That came out of my ice maker, sits up here.
Nice.
Ice in there. It's super cold in there. In fact, I'm probably going to have to turn this guy. This is your thermistor. I keep turning it down now because it is pretty cold. I'm going to try to find the right
temperature.
mix.
Have you been measuring the temperature actually? Do you know what you're running?
Pro tip: buy a thermometer. That's what I'm going to do today.
Right.
at Ace Hardware. Just like anywhere, you want to be kind of 30, 40 degrees, 38, 40 degrees. You want to make sure you're cold enough to not let bacteria grow.
Yeah, you want it
Um,
food safe.
yeah, you want your food safe. Pro tip: get a Yeti. Oh man, there you go. Close it. Close the Yeti. Keep it closed or keep it warmer. And then I have another cooler over here. That's what we're living off of, right? And ice every day. So, but have those. If your fridge goes out, you need to have a cooler to keep you safe and keep your food from spoiling. Because it's spoiled food you can throw away, but if you eat it, it's going to be really really tough.
Yeah, especially if you're out on the
Trying to
road.
get.
Can you hear me, Gabe?
There we go. I
Yeah,
hear you
okay.
now. What was
Yeah, I
that?
said especially if you're out on the road, that's food poisoning is not going to be fun, especially.
Right.
Yeah. So, Gabe, a question: how much does the unit actually weigh?
Oh my god. How much does it weigh?
Yeah.
More than my right shoulder can handle. Because I literally, I'm gonna sit over here. I don't think you can see me with the sun. There you go. That's probably a little better. Yeah, it weighs. I mean, it's heavy. I can pick it up, so I would say it's not 200 pounds, but it's north of 100 pounds. I mean, it's just awkward and it's hard to slide it in and out. So you definitely want two people. Flipping it over, rolling it was easy, and it's just a box, right? But yeah, I mean, I would say I can pull the exact numbers. It's just because of the location, and it's so hard to get it out of there that it's even harder. I mean, you really have to pull hard, and there's not a lot of places to hold on to. Obviously, the door was a great place to hold on to, but I broke the hinge. So,
Right. So
hmm
we were talking offline, Gabriel. You probably saved yourself a lot of money, even though this was a lot of work.
I mean, the best quote I've gotten so far has been 1350 for the unit, plus tax, plus freight, and they won't install it until 2 months from now. Then the other best unit price was 1400 plus tax plus freight plus blah blah blah. It was here in Taos, but it was like, oh, well, we may get it in the next 2 weeks. I'm like, well, I'm not going to be here in 2 weeks. I'm going to head up to Durango, and they're all, you're looking about almost 2 grand if you're going to get it installed, and that's because they run on three phase, right? Both direct, alternating, and propane, and that's what keeps you going when you're off the grid.
Right.
But pro tip from Moses, and I'm gonna put his phone number on there. I'm gonna make sure we write that in the notes. But he was like, yeah, run on propane at this altitude. It always runs better. And true to that. I mean, I yes, it's gonna cost me some money on propane, and I only have one tank on this small. This is a small RV. It's my first one. But I think that was a game changer to have somebody kind of tell me like this unit's good. You don't have to replace it yet. It looks good, and I didn't fix it. Let's just be clear. It's not fixed forever. I just prolonged me having to replace this. That's what they say. Once you have to flip your refrigerator over, it's kind of like I'm letting it kind of limp along. So I probably just postponed replacing my
You bought yourself
refrigerator.
some time. Yeah.
Yeah, but right now, oh my god, I think as long as I keep it on, right, and that's all circulating, I think it's going to be running perfect. So my goal is to I mean, I'm going to be on the road for the next 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. So I don't think I'm going to need it for the next 4 or 5 weeks. Now if I go home and I decided to store it, let's see how it does first in Texas at 105-degree weather. Right,
Right. Totally.
and let's see that. But I hadn't seen a lot of tips on you know actually how to do it, and nobody really went through all the disconnecting and stuff. So I thought, man, it's so rewarding that I have ice in my refrigerator that
I cannot imagine.
I just wanted to kind of share that experience, and
Well,
I'm
and
sure I'm gonna.
Gabriel, you're traveling with your girlfriend too, so she's probably really super glad that we have ice.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a bit of a game changer, and we have a little more storage now. We've been using our friend's refrigerator, just because we're here, but once we're on the road, that's it. It's we're down to what's in, and every piece of square footage, cubic foot on this box is meaningful. It adds weight, it adds mileage, and if you're just carrying an empty box that you can't use for anything, that sucks, right? Now you can put ice in it and use it as an old school ice box. It's just not super well insulated, but I mean that does it's not going to be as good as a Yeti, but that is something to remember. Hey, if it's not cooling, throw some ice in there, and it'll keep it cooler, right? It won't be 40, but at least it'll be useful space. It won't be like a hot box, right?
Right. All right. Well, that brings us to your favorite part of the show, which is 3 things to do now. So I imagine you have 3 things, or maybe more.
All right. Rule number 1: don't do what I do. Read the instruction manual. And you actually don't even have to read the instruction manual. You can just read the door. On the inside of the door, it says, make sure it's level. And I was not level, right? And within tolerance. So level. So number 1, read the instructions. 2, level your trailer, right? And actually, another pro tip that I'll add in terms of leveling, for some of the units, they have these little scissor guys, and they're not meant for leveling as much as like making sure that you're stable, right? And so they'll might level up and forward and back, but they're not meant to lift your trailer. So I've seen a lot of people on videos online of people breaking their trailer as they're leveling it. And rule number 3 is like, don't do what I did. Don't buy a trailer and just think you can just do it and run out there. I mean, I'm lucky that I have tools. I'm lucky that I have the experience in you know remodeling and like doing some electrical work, but it would have been much easier to just do this in Houston with all my tools and just test it all there and make sure everything was working. But I mean, I bought it on Monday, and on Thursday we were already out on the road. So it was a quick turnaround and a big learning curve. Take a lot of notes. Know your pressures on your tires. I mean, all those things are little things, and I avoided a huge expense, and I'm lucky for that. But I don't wish it on anybody, right? Like, understand how to use your pumps, how you do the converters. Take a class, and if not, at least listen to this video. Don't because there's nothing else that would have helped me get through this, and have phone numbers of people you can talk to that have RVs and join. There's a good Facebook group that I've been listening to. It's called Texas RV, and man, you throw a question up there, and people have been kind of answering back and forth. So stay vigilant and don't just go out there. Do a little research and make sure you have your tools, please.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions or anything, they can text Expert35 to this number, right, Gabe?
Yep.
And we'll get you wherever you need to go and point you in the right direction. So
yeah, and if you text Dometic, I'll send you the actual Dometic installation guide, because that was really helpful to uninstall it. So we'll send the little PDF and the checklist of all the tools that I used.
Okay, that's great. So well, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your story, and hopefully everyone will learn and avoid some mistakes.
Greg, you've been great, man. Thanks so much. I'll keep you posted on how cold it stays 24 hours later.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're going to show a photo, Gabe, of your rig right there. So let me get me off screen. No one needs to see me. There we go. So there's your setup, and there's Calvin.
Yep.
So we appreciate you on the show, and you guys be safe on the road, and we'll be talking soon. Okay.
All right, Greg. Thanks a lot.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today on Expert35. My name is Greg Stevenson. If you want to join the conversation, text Expert35 to the number on the screen, and tune in next week. And everyone have a great day. We'll talk to you later.